The day my husband took my bank cards for the family, I thought he was protecting our future. It took me a year to realize he was protecting a secret. The sound the drawer made was soft, almost polite. He stacked my bank cards neatly inside, closed it, and said in a calm, measured voice, "It's better this way. A real family doesn't keep secrets." I stood across from him with wet hands. I had just finished washing the dishes. Drops of water slid down my fingers onto the tile, and suddenly I understood something. It wasn't just a drawer that had closed. Something else had shut with it, something invisible, but much more important. The words rose to my throat, then froze there. For the first time in 20 years of marriage, I didn't know what to say. I met Daniel when I was 30. He was steady, predictable, the kind of man who never raised his voice and never made impulsive decisions. At the time, that felt like safety. I came into that relationship carrying a mortgage, a young son from my first marriage, and a quiet, permanent fear that life could collapse again without warning. "I believe in order," he told me early on, "in money, in family, in life." Back then, it sounded like strength. Now I understand. It was more like a contract I agreed to without reading the fine print. We married quickly. He helped with the bills, picked my son up from school, fixed things around the house before I even noticed they were broken. And then he introduced me to his mother, Margaret, a woman with perfect posture and a smile that never quite reached her eyes. "Families survive on discipline," she told me the first time we met, "especially when it comes to women." I nodded. I used to nod a lot in those days, often without realizing it. The first cracks didn't look like cracks at all. They looked like concern. He started asking how much I earned, then where it went, then gently explaining which expenses were reasonable and which were not. "We're a family," he'd remind me. That means shared money. Eventually, I suggested transferring my salary into our joint account, voluntarily. It felt like the mature thing to do, the right thing, the married thing. What I didn't know then is that voluntary surrender is often the most dangerous kind, because you don't even feel the moment you give something away. A few years later, I noticed something unsettling. I couldn't buy anything without saying it out loud first. Not asking permission, no. It was subtler than that. I was thinking about getting a new coat, but you already have one. "Maybe I'll visit Laura this weekend. You talk to her all the time anyway." He never forbade anything. He explained. And sometimes explanations are just prohibitions, dressed in softer language. Margaret called almost every day. She wanted to know what we were eating, how much I spent on groceries, why my son needed so many extracurricular activities. "A man must lead," she often said, "and a woman must be wise." Wise, meaning quiet, agreeable, convenient. When I turned 45, something inside me burned out. Work drained me. Home didn't restore me. I was exhausted from being the easy one, the reasonable one, the one who never complicated things. So I began setting aside small amounts of money, not out of greed, out of fear. A separate card, a modest balance, my private silence. I didn't tell anyone, not even my closest friends. Some part of me knew this wasn't just about money. It was about oxygen. He found out by accident. I stepped away from my phone to make tea, and a notification lit up the screen. That evening, we sat in the kitchen. No yelling, no drama, just a heavy, suffocating quiet. "You don't trust me?" he asked. "I do," I said carefully, "but this makes me feel calmer." He didn't respond right away. Then he said something that made my stomach tighten. "Then we have a problem." The next day, he took my cards. "I'm not banning you from spending," he explained evenly. "Everything will just go through me now. It's more transparent." Transparent. The word echoed strangely in my head. I felt like a teenager caught lying. And at the same time, a guilty grown woman who couldn't explain what she'd done wrong. Margaret supported him instantly. "A woman with secret money is a warning sign," she declared. "Today, it's a hidden card. Tomorrow, who knows?" I said nothing. Silence was still my native language back then. After that, life became smaller. Every purchase turned into a discussion. "Why do you need a new lipstick? Isn't that too expensive? Are you sure this is necessary?" Eventually, I stopped buying things for myself at all. Even tiny things began to feel extravagant. One afternoon at the grocery store, my card was declined. I stood there while Daniel decided over the phone whether what I was buying was essential. People sighed behind me. The cashier avoided my eyes, and I stared at the conveyor belt, feeling myself shrink. Not physically, but somewhere deeper, as if the outline of who I was kept fading. Sometimes a terrifying thought crept in. If he left, what would remain? No savings, no confidence, no proof that I existed as a separate person. My son noticed before I did. One evening, he studied me quietly and said, "Mom, you've gotten smaller." The sentence lodged itself somewhere near my ribs. I carried it for weeks. 6 months later, Daniel suggested I quit my job. "You're always tired. I can handle everything," he said. Margaret was thrilled. Finally, a proper family. But something unexpected happened in that moment. For the first time, I said no, directly, firmly. He looked genuinely surprised. "You don't trust me?" he asked again. That question began appearing more and more often, like a shadow following every disagreement. From the outside, our life looked peaceful. No shouting, no betrayals, no slammed doors. But inside, I felt like a guest in my own existence. Someone polite, temporary, replaceable. One afternoon, he asked me to find a warranty document. I opened the folder where we kept our paperwork, and that's when I saw it. A bank statement, then another, and another. A personal account, separate, large balances, regular transfers, all sent to Margaret. I sat down right there on the floor, papers trembling in my hands. Those were the same dollars I'd been denied for a winter coat, for a short trip, for harmless little comforts. That evening I said nothing, but something inside me had begun to wake up. A week later, he brought it up himself. "Mom needs help renovating the lake house." My voice surprised even me with its calmness. "You have a separate account for that." He froze, just for a second, but it was enough. "You went through my documents?" "You took my cards," I replied quietly. "And you have secret accounts. What would you call that?" His jaw tightened. "That's different. I'm a man. I plan ahead." In that instant, everything became painfully clear. This was never about budgeting, or responsibility, or transparency. I had simply never been considered an equal here. Margaret arrived the next morning, as if summoned by tension itself. She sat across from me, folded her hands, and said, "A family can't have two centers of power." And there it was, the truth, stripped of politeness. I didn't scream, didn't slam doors, didn't threaten divorce. A strange calm settled over me instead, the kind that comes right before your life changes direction. 1 month later, I opened my own account. Officially. My salary went there. Mine. "You're destroying this marriage," Daniel said coldly. I met his gaze. "No," I answered. "I'm returning to myself." We're still together, technically. He believes I've become selfish. I believe I was silent for far too long. Sometimes I wonder, if I had kept quiet, would life feel easier? Or just more convenient for everyone but me? And where exactly is the line between family and losing yourself? That's something each of us has to decide before the drawer closes.